Chuck and I, while we don't drive trucks, we spent most of our actual careers, such as they are, freelancing and gigging. Granted, we did it in a profession that's demonstrably different than driving an Uber or a truck or writing code or any number of other things, but I just couldn't believe an idea that seems so fundamentally at odds with the business of making a living and taking a measure of responsibility for yourself. I just couldn't believe it would make it through.
In 2019, California's Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill called Assembly Bill 5, and for shorthand, we call that AB 5. What California was trying to accomplish in that moment, it said, was to address exploitation, situations where freelance workers, independent contractors, they're called in the law, should have been technically full employees with real hourly pay and work schedules that were utterly predictable, 9 to 5, whatever, and benefits, and of course, taxes to the state. Mm-hmm. The real goal, I'll just give you the shorthand here, Mike, the real goal was to drive independent contractors into large employers that could afford to manage all those benefits and costs and to eliminate the competition for those employers. So if you have a bunch of truck drivers out there who own their own rigs and they're able to set their own schedules and their own pricing, well, they're running as competition to large transportation companies that don't like that competition. It keeps the prices low, right? That's what competition is for, in part. So in the trucking industry, what this meant effectively was that 70,000 truckers suddenly had two choices: go to work for a large transportation company as their employee and surrender their businesses, or get the hell out of California.
How exactly is it hurting the independent trucker financially?
Well, it basically says to them that they can't operate outside of an employment agreement with a larger carrier, where they are, in fact, employees rather than independent business owners. So it's a little bit like if you wanted to continue to do your work, Mike, anybody you worked for had to hire you as an employee. And they had the right, therefore, and you might say responsibility, to set your work hours, watch how you do your work, lean over your shoulder all the time. You can imagine that for truckers especially, they're not the kinds of people who really want to be somebody else's employee. They bought these rigs at tremendous cost. I mean, you've seen these machines. They can cost $250,000, $300,000 or more. And the state suddenly told them, you can't do that here. It's against the law. They don't have to leave California, but if they want to continue their operations, they have to leave California. I talked to a number of truckers, one of whom I featured in the story you mentioned, a guy named Tom Odom from the Central Valley of California, who has decided to go for Plan B. He's closing up shop in California and moving his family to Texas, and he's going to continue independent trucking in Texas.
Chuck, I see you dialing frantically. Any luck?
Yeah, say hi to Tom Odom.
Tom, can you hear me?
Hi, Mike.
Just so people can hear it from you directly. You had a rough start. You paid your dues. You built a company. You're making well over 6 figures a year, and it looks like you need to leave the state. So just speak to that, if you wouldn't mind, and tell me about the court case that's coming up and what ultimately is at stake for you and your family.
Building my company did take a lot of sacrifice. Through the years, I missed plenty of my kids' birthdays. I missed plenty of my anniversaries. You miss a lot when you're a truck driver. You put in the hard work. Growing up the way I did, poor and sometimes on welfare, to all of a sudden making more money than anybody in your family's ever made, it puts a little bit more of a fire under you, because there's no way a poor kid from East LA with no education is going to make a 6-figure income. But trucking allowed me to do it. And owning my own business allowed me to do it. Trucking's been good to us. And we've been able to save enough money to buy a house in Texas. And we're going to move to Texas. We would love to stay in California. We're both from California. That's our home. I don't want to leave, but to work the way I want to work, I got to leave the state.
It must be so frustrating, Tom, to have that, to have earned it, and then just to have it removed. Are you driving as we speak, or have you pulled into a rest stop? What's the situation?
I stopped for the phone call today.
Good, because I'm sure there's some sort of liability involved if you run off the road while you're being interviewed by the dirty jobs guy. That would just be a bad look.